today, everyone. Let's see if we can all get outside at some point maybe today and say thank you to all this wonderfulness that we've got that we're going to soon get a chance to at some point go back out and interact with the world again. So that's something to look forward to. All right, so that said, roll call is always obviously done with advised roam in the background. At this point, I think we should just say minutes are as easy as the video playback at this point for the end of this term, because that's just not happening. But corrections and approval of the agenda. So and take a glance at that. And whenever a senator at this moment, make sure everyone's paying attention, you new senators, new soon-to-be senators, and I will entertain a motion to approve that agenda for tonight. And it looks like we have a motion made by Senator Willis. Do we have a second? And second by Senator Zebel. All right, all those in favor, senators, please use the hand raising feature now and keep your hands up. All right, and you can put your hands down. And all those, I see two hands still up, at least on my end. All those opposed, use the hand raising feature now. And down. And any abstentions, use the hand raising feature now. And the agenda has passed. All right, so moving on then, public comments. First up, Lucia Nunez, the VP Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement Vice President. So take it away, Lucia.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you for allowing me a couple of minutes. Just this week, I attended a community meeting called La Soup. It's the Latino Support Network. It's pretty much, there were probably about 79 people on this meeting, and quite a few announcements and resources that I wanted to share with you. One from MG&E, and I've created a PowerPoint, which I will, if I can share my screen, do that. And then I will send it so that you all could see this. Are you seeing my screen at this point? So two people spoke from MG&E, Mario Garcia Sierra, and he talked about the need for deferred payment, or, really being careful. There's some people who are struggling in terms of paying their MG&E bill. And I wanted to make sure that you had these resources. There's a number of different telephone numbers on this slide. I took it straight from their presentation. And they have Spanish and Hmong speakers. So I thought that was a good thing as well, to get out into the community through you all as a vehicle in terms of the Student Senate. The next slide, this was something that I had heard about but didn't have some information. But a relief fund has been created. It's being managed by, I'm sure you can hear the jet flying over my head here, so I'm somewhat near the airport. But Centro Hispano of Dane County is a local organization here, and they've created a relief fund for people struggling in COVID, right? Either with medical bills, paying rent, or food insecurity, whatever it might be. And this is just a screenshot of their website, but this is the actual link to that fund. It's managed by a group of people. They're asking for donations, but as well, I wanted to get the word out, because for some of our students, they may be eligible for this rather than the COVID relief funds that are eligible through the college. So I just wanted to make sure that these two resources got out to you. Let me stop sharing my screen. And again, I've sent them to Ellie. she can share it with you all. And if you have other ways to get it out to different student groups, that would be fantastic. And that's all I was going to report. The one thing that I did want to share with you all, we had earlier in the month had Day of Understanding, and we had some students participate. That there were conversations just to check in on each other and really just create a space to talk about some of the current issues that have been going on in this country, from COVID to just a number of things. And we did hear from some students about that isolation, that lack of community that they're struggling with, and still like feeling alone, being away from their families, etc. So I think we may need to set up some more of those sessions just with students and facilitate those sessions so that students feel connected, and that we create that. So maybe that's something that Sean, Ellie, maybe we could talk about. How do we do that, and how do we help facilitate that, perhaps with some of the equity coordinators that we have. So again, if there's any questions, I'm glad to stay and answer them. So thank you.
Yeah, do we have any questions for Lucia? Don't be shy. Senator Willis? I think you're still on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for sharing the resources. We've been missing you so much. I hate that I can't bring her to the school and have coffee or something with you, but hopefully soon. And it's okay for us to share that with the students or anybody?
Please,
Okay.
please. I mean, these are available to students, anybody living in this area, Dane County, and any whatever MG&E's geographic expanse are, which I know it's Madison and some other parts of Dane County. So please do share those.
Awesome. And any other questions?
Well, thank you very much. And please have a great afternoon. I'm going to try to go outside for a little bit as well. So
awesome. And thank you. Yeah, we definitely are interested in taking the opportunity to get a chance to talk with students. So if those anytime you see opportunities like that, we definitely want to be involved with that. So thank you, Lucia, very much. So with that said, I'm going to move down now to the next public comments that we have, and with the new digital name that has been created. I'm excited about this, the Technology Access Program, and then budget update with Sylvia Ramirez. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, so I apologize. Caitlyn, Reinart, and Ben Monty.
Thank you, Sean.
Cool. Awesome.
So just real quick, before Caitlyn gives you an update on the Technology Access Program, which is our new name for the laptop and hotspot loan program, as well as some of the other digital equity initiatives we're working on, I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce Caitlyn Reinart. Caitlyn is a former Madison College student who's now working on her master's degree, to give you a sense of where she's gone, who joined us she joined the college as an employee not too long ago, working in my office, and then recently moved into the Technology Access Program coordinator role. And so, I just want to say welcome, make sure you know who she is so that you can chat with her whenever you need to. And then I'm going to hand it over to her to give you guys a little bit of an update about how the program's going to wrap up for spring and get ready for summer.
Thanks, Sylvia. Yeah, so like Sylvia said, my name is Caitlyn. My contact information is at the bottom of this slide. Feel free to take note. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions about the program or if you have any feedback about it. As most of you know, the program started because of COVID, so it's very new, and we're all just trying to figure out the best way to make the program better as we move forward. So I'd love to hear from you, and feel free to share my contact information with anybody that you know as well. So I just have a couple of quick updates. So the spring 2021 rentals for the laptops and hotspots are due on May 25th, which is the same day that textbook rentals are due as well. And students have the option to return them via shipping, and there's a form that they can fill out, and I can share that with you if you're interested in that, or bringing it to campus as well. And in addition to that, just a quick update about when shipping and pickups will start for summer and fall. So students can get equipment starting May 15th for the summer and starting on August 15th for the fall. And like I said, there's shipping and on-campus pickup options for that as well. Does anybody have any questions about the program or anything that I just chatted about?
Questions, anyone? I guess not.
Okay.
So yeah, you may continue.
Perfect.
I
I'll
think Sarah
hand it
Willis actually has a
Oh.
question.
Yeah.
Hi, Caitlyn. Quickly, if students currently have those devices, do they have to turn them in if they're going to be if they need to use them over the summer, or can they just do an extension?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So if you're enrolled in classes for the summertime, you do not need to return them. So you are all set.
Cool. All right, they're probably just saving the questions in the back of the mind. So yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, my email or my phone number is on there. And if you guys have any other questions, you can feel free to call or email as well.
Awesome.
Okay, I guess I'll hand it over to Ben then if you don't have any other questions.
I guess not. Ben, take it away, buddy.
Sure. Sylvia, did you have something you wanted to say after Caitlyn was done?
No, you're good to go.
I'm good to go. All right. I thought you said you did. I'll go get started then. All right. So I'm here today to just give you an update on the 21-22 budget. I'm also going to share some information about the relief that's been provided related to COVID-19, talk about next steps in the budget process, and finally, I'm going to provide you with some updates related to SAB that have happened this year. This first slide we like to share because this is our 10-year budget projection. It starts with the current fiscal year, which has a budget that's always balanced. And then we just in March balanced the 21-22 budget. But then it shows going on into future years what we expect to happen to expenditures and revenues. And we kind of call this picture our alligator. And in the past, the mouth has been wider, open wider. But we've done a lot of hard work across the college to better align our expenditures with our revenues. So going into future years, we still have deficits, but they are a lot smaller than they were years ago. Probably 5 years ago when we first started this, tracking this and showing this type of graph, we had deficits in future years, like 5 or 6 years out there, were as high as $17 million. So I just wanted to show you this to show kind of the future of the college as well on the budget side. So then we'll resolve that deficit next year. In terms of how we balance the budget, I want to give you some information about that. We budgeted for 7,300 full-time equivalent students. In our original budget that we were using and presented earlier this year, we had a contingency budget of 4%, and we reduced that to 3%. We have an internal service fund that has some money left over in it. We plan to use part of that funding to balance our general fund. We also budgeted for state aids for next year to be similar to what they're receiving in the current year. I'll talk a little bit briefly more about this, but we have received additional federal money as related to that. We received some additional funding on our general fund related to what are called indirect costs. In addition, the budget includes a 1% tuition increase. That percentage is a little different depending on which program you're actually in, but overall it was about 1%. The college's personal spending is about 83.1% of its budget. We also funded some priorities I'll share with you shortly. And then our budget is balanced based on the assumptions that we are using. Some priorities in this budget are we're funding the Second Chance Pell Program. This is a program that provides education to incarcerated individuals. They can take Madison College courses. We're also providing funding for a lot of our equity and inclusion planning and initiatives. Another example of our priorities is we're making plans related to the additional funding that we are receiving related to COVID-19. And give you more information about that funding, I'd like to share with you, so far we have received sort of 2 waves of funding, I guess I would describe it. The first wave we received was called CARES. And in that wave, we received about $2.75 million to spend sort of on what we call the institutional side, which would be kind of like our more direct costs related to our responding to the pandemic. In addition, we've also received $2.75 million to provide directly to students as aid. We've also received CARE Strengthening Institutions funding. That was about $270,000. We also received another allotment from what the state received. That was called the sort of the governor's office. And we received $1.1 million from there. And then the next wave of money that we received is called, we're referring to as CARISA. And in that pot, we have to allocate $2.75 million to student grants. And on the institutional side, we actually received $9.6 million. And then we also have another $170,000 in strengthening institutions funding. And then we're also receiving a third wave of funding, which is called ARPA, which is the American Relief Plan Act. And we haven't received that funding yet, but it's pending. And then in addition, we received other smaller grants as well from specific providers, and those have been for specific purposes, for example, childcare. In terms of the additional funding we're expecting to receive yet, the funding I referred to as ARPA, that could be potentially as much as $22 million, and half of that money has to be spent on student grants, so about $11 million. Also, part of that funding has to be spent on monitoring and suppressing the coronavirus. So that could be possibly, vaccinating students or testing. Some of that is still TBD at this time. As you think of what the spending that we've currently done related to CARES and CARISA, about a third of it we've actually spent on institutional uses, and about 64% we spent on student aid. So earlier when I mentioned we're supposed to spend $2.75 million of that amount that I mentioned earlier, we actually spent more than that on student aid than we were required. In terms of on the institutional side where that money went, we spent about $1.4 million on campus safety, $300,000 to provide additional instruction related to a response to the pandemic, another $300,000 on instructional supplies. We provided $1.1 million in support for distant learning and $1 million in technology expenses. In addition, since we have fewer students on campus, for example, like food services, that's an enterprise operation. They are not receiving as much revenue as they normally would. So we have used about $900,000 to cover lost revenue in some of our enterprise operations. Moving on to what the 21-22 budget includes, these are some of the assumptions that are included. We're assuming that our tax levy is going to increase about 3% due to an increase in net new construction. We're allowed to increase our tax levy by the impact basically of buildings coming up and buildings going down within our district. I mentioned earlier their state aids are projected to be similar to the current year. The 7,300 full-time equivalent students and the 1% tuition increase I already mentioned. Some other changes in the budget. The online course fee has been suspended by the WTCS for next fiscal year. That was a $10 per credit fee for courses that were online. So students won't have to pay that for next year. It's possible it may be permanently eliminated. We've also had a reduction in interest earnings. And you probably may have heard, we used to have a downtown campus, and we had a plan to lease the ground underneath it to a hotel. But due to the pandemic, those plans have been kind of in flux. So we're not expecting to receive any revenue from that next year. On the expenditure side, we're planning for about 2.15% in salary and wage adjustments. We also budget about 3% for what we call salary savings and fringe savings. This is to account for the time that we don't know when it's going to happen, but we do know that we have positions that are vacant during the year. So this helps to offset that and account for it in the budget. In fringe, our current contracts go through the end of this calendar year, so we actually have what they're actually increasing for expense-wise, and then we have some projected percentage increases for the second half of the fiscal year. On our non-personnel side, which is like mostly our supplies and utilities and other items, we base those on planned actuals, and we have seen utility savings related to the increase of using solar energy on our campuses. Here I show you what our budget looks like when it is balanced. That's the final budget column. When we went into March, we had a deficit of about $1.4 million to still resolve. I think the last time we presented to Senate, and if I missed that we shared another update with you, I apologize. But I think it might have been September was the last time we might have formally presented at one of your meetings. And at that time, our deficit was about $6.1 million. So throughout the process, we hope that it moves in that direction towards eventually balancing, which is where we are now. And then again, overall, 83.1% of the budget is spent on personnel, which is about almost $200,000 lower than, about $200,000 more than what we had in our initial budget last year. Another thing, I'll be talking to you a little briefly about reserves, and at least on our general fund, we're required to maintain about a 25% balance, and we do plan to fund that in future years. On our capital budget, that is the money that we spend typically on building and remodeling. We're planning to borrow about $35 million. And that is to help us implement our facility strategic plan. Some highlights of the things that we are going to be doing next year that I want to share is we are relocating several programs from the first floor of the Truex main building to various locations across the Truex campus. And we're doing that to prepare to relocate the IT programs to the Truex main building. We're also expanding the Fort Atkinson campus to accommodate additional metal fabrication sections. And we're also completing the final year of what is called our personal education planned capital commitment. Here I show you across all of the different funds that the college has what we are budgeting for next year. Across all our funds, the college has budgeted about $315 million. And about half of that is in the general fund, which is kind of like where we bring in most of the money that's used for our instruction. And that's also like where your tuition goes. I just want to touch briefly on the surplus deficit line. In the capital projects fund, on that number that's there, we use the money that we get from the proceeds from debt funds that, so that's nothing to be alarmed about. On our debt service fund, we usually have a balance there just due to timing issues. On our proprietary funds, those are the enterprise operations I discussed earlier, like food service. We are expected to have some deficits in that fund just because we're not expecting to go back to the way we were prior to the pandemic. In terms of a timeline, we are actually having a public hearing on the budget in 2 weeks. The board is holding that. And then the board is expected to approve the final budget in June. And then that'll be for when our fiscal year starts on July 1st. Next, I want to provide you a couple of updates related to SAB. So this year we did make some fee changes. These changes actually started last summer, and they are continuing. I just wanted to talk to you about how long they're continuing as of now. For example, the commuter services fee was reduced from $26 to $0, and that's going to continue for summer 2021. And then the fee that we normally charge in the fall and spring has been reduced from $46 to $27 for fall 2021. And that fee, so why we reduced this, because there is no shuttle service planned right now. There isn't one in the summer, and then we're not planning for one in the fall. The fee that is being charged does cover Metro bus passes and the parking fee as well. And then in addition, SAB earlier this year approved paying for bus passes for students who do not pay the commuter services fee. Because of the way that the fee is set up, it applies to students who will be paying it who are taking an online course, are taking in-person courses. And so if you're taking all online courses, you may not be charged that. So there were a few issues, where students still wanted bus pass, and we decided that it was important to fund that, or SAB decided that. I also want to point out the fitness fee has been reduced 20%, and that will continue for the rest of this calendar year. I believe they are providing access to Planet Fitness, and they also have online fitness opportunities. Some other SAB changes that have happened is I want to point out we will be moving revenue that's been collected from the student health services fee to the same area where we account for SAB funding. That money is currently depositing in an enterprise account that's associated with the fitness center, and we just wanted to separate that out so it's more clear. And that fee, the money that goes to support the student health clinic, the GHC clinic that's in the health building, where students have access to services. The other change that we made was changing that reserve policy that SAB has. On this slide, I just show what the original language was related to the reserve policy. Basically, it stated that SAB should try to maintain a reserves between 7 and 10% of what it brings in student activity fees. And I just said any remaining balance will be available for one-time requests. We decided to add some language that would helpfully give a little additional guidance around when the money that SAB has exceeds what is should be used for what it should be having for its reserves or contingency. So it's the change we made. We did increase sort of that range. We increased it to 15% from 10 on the upper end. And we found that to be consistent with other schools as well, how they treat their student fees, contingency needs. And then the second part we did was that if there ends up being funding above the contingency, the SAB that is active in the fall has to do some planning related to that. And that planning could be one-time spending, or it could also be one-time reductions in what we charge for the fee. And I think Advisor Rome will be talking to you about approving these changes later. And with that, I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen now so then I can take any questions.
All right, thank you. There's that little bit of echo right there. That really messes with my head. All right, so we do need. I think it would be good maybe to put at least 3 minutes. Extend the time for at least 3 minutes to ask any questions if we have any questions. So I'm just going to ask right now. Do we have any questions? Because if we do, then we should extend this, and there should need to be a motion made. If there are no questions currently at the moment, there's always questions later on. Then you always have that opportunity to talk to them. Contact them through their email and whatnot. So do we have any questions for Ben, Sylvia, Caitlyn, at all? Really quiet bunch today, I guess, right? Sometimes that's how it goes, All right, well then, there's no need for motion. To extend time. I'm going to say thank you, all three of you, for taking a good 20 minutes of time to do this presentation. I mean, I know that that's not that's a big presentation and a lot of information shared. So we really appreciate you keeping us informed. And including us in all of this. And yeah, if any questions do come up later on, we'll make sure that they get directed to each one of you in the right areas that they need to go. So that said, I'm going to say thank you, and then move down on the agenda here. So all right, so now we're going to move down old business items. We do not have any old business items to discuss. And then new business items kind of just starts where Ben picked up. I'm just gonna say jumped off because I really don't. I lost that there. With the SAB stuff, Student Activities Board, approve SAB bylaw changes, and I'm going to let Advisor Rome speak on this, and kind of go over essentially the Senate, SAB decided to make changes to how their bylaws are worded and whatnot. Advisor Rome will go over that, but they approved it. Now it goes to Senate for approval. After that, it goes up to the district board and to fully be implemented and changed. So we play a vital role in this. And so do your best. I know everyone pays close attention, but do your best to pay close attention. So Advisor Rome, go for it.
I don't seem to have the option to upload documents into the chat. Do you have that option?
I think I should. Yeah. Let me see.
This is the only meeting I don't seem to have that option. Anybody? No? Okay. Who knows what's going on?
Strange. Yeah.
So the document itself is not what I'm going to share on my screen because it's just not that helpful. I'm going to talk kind of big picture.
Documents.
Perfect.
Sorry for cutting you off. So yeah, if you want to send it to me, I will.
The one I sent you yesterday would be.
Oh, yep.
Perfect. Yep. So Sean's going to update or upload the document itself so that you can scroll through it on your own end. But I'm going to talk in kind of bigger picture terms of what the changes are and why they're being made. So here I go. I'll share my slides. So for anybody who's not familiar, the Student Activities Board is made up of representatives from all of the student organizations. So those are all of the groups that are advised directly by an employee at the college whose job it is to advise them, basically. So Senate is one of those, things like the Volunteer Center, Phi Theta Kappa, athletics, the performing arts groups. So those organizations' representatives come together with President Green and Dr. Tim Casper as co-chairs for this group to make decisions about how student fees are allocated, plus some other stuff here and there. But their really big purpose is to decide on student fees. So this group had the opportunity to kind of take a look at the Constitution and bylaws this year, partially due to some questions that Ben actually raised about the contingency funding. So took that opportunity to form a small committee. There were representatives from the Clarion newspaper, Student Life, and PTK, myself, and the advisor for the Performing Arts group. So it wasn't everybody in SAB, but it was brought to the whole group after that. So SAB actually approved these changes, was that just last week? Wow, feels a little longer. And then per the SAB bylaws, after it's approved by SAB, it needs to be approved by Senate, then the college president, then the district board. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks, the college president will approve it and President Green will be presenting to the district board the first week of May. So hopefully these will all go through and be updated because as you'll see, there were some significant inconsistencies and they haven't been updated for 10 years, which is a pretty long time for a document like this. So the starting point was really just making corrections for titles and different inconsistencies. A big one is that MATC was in there a lot, and I know people still sometimes use that acronym, but it's not officially the shortened version of Madison College. So that was changed to Madison College. For some odd reason, Student Activity Board was in there a lot, and that's not the name of the group, it's Activities Board. And then different offices, the Office of Campus Life and Enrichment or something like that, Student Life, the director of that office, what the vice president, that Dr. Tim Casper, his position. Those titles have changed. Even the office where Ben works has changed its name. So a lot can change in terms of titles and the way that things are called in 10 years. So those were changed for positions, a few updates for organizations. The student media didn't include the Yahara Journal, or no, didn't include the broadcasting group. So that's been included to be student media instead of Clarion and Yahara Journal. The performing arts group had listed in it also forensics. That doesn't exist anymore. Just things like that to update the language. Those were the easy changes to make. Not much discussion there at SAB. Then the second priority was really just reviewing it for student voice and representation, making sure that this body really represented students well, represented the student organizations, and provided some opportunities for that representation to be fair, I guess. So previously it said that student organizations needed to submit names to Senate to be approved for their representatives. That hasn't been happening, and I think probably because it's a little bit strange for Senate to sign off on who the representative is going to be. I think it's better that each organization gets to just select their representatives and let SAB know who those are. There was not a formal process for the Senate president to designate an alternate chair, just said that the president could. Didn't even say that it had to be a student. Obviously, the Senate president would probably pick a student, but there wasn't anything in the bylaws saying that it had to be co-chaired by a student. So that was one piece. And then for this body's knowledge, the designee would be sort of recommended by the Senate president and approved by the Student Senate General Assembly. So that provides some accountability that the president doesn't just get to pick their friend or random person, but they have to pick someone who's in an organization, and then it's approved by the Student Senate. Very new is adding a stipend for sitting on the Student Activities Board. The fall semester, it's only like 3 or 4 meetings. They usually are 2 hours, but 3 or 4 meetings, it's a little bit of extra time for the people who are in it. Spring semester, it is every single Friday, almost always 2 hours. And some of the students who are on SAB are paid hourly. Some of them have a little bump in their stipend for being on SAB. Some of them, like Senate, just get the stipend they get. So this is a new piece really just to make sure that it's equitable and that students who put in the time are compensated fairly across the board. And then there was sort of a clause about this executive committee, which is representatives from 2 organizations that volunteer to sort of make decisions in between when SAB meets. It stated that that executive committee could make decisions between meetings during the school year, which doesn't feel like a good representation of all of the organizations. So that body now can only be active over the summer to make decisions about fees or whatever needs to happen. Like last summer, they needed to make a decision about lowering the fitness fee and stepping the commuter services fee for the fall, things like that. So now that committee can't make decisions like on a Wednesday between 2 Fridays when SAB will meet, which is a fairer way of making decisions. It's never been used that way maliciously, but you never know. Got to write these things with sometimes the worst intentions in mind. And then Ben already talked about some of this, the first two pieces, and then the third piece that is changing about the Student Activities Board funding is there was a bullet point in there about an automatic cost of living adjustment so that budgets would automatically increase by 3% each year. That's just not feasible with enrollment being as uncertain as it is. We are not getting 3% increase in our enrollment every year. In fact, we've gone down quite a bit over the last few years. So that was just not feasible to keep in there. So those are the changes. I wanted to just list the people who helped make these recommendations to the Student Activities Board. So are there any questions, particularly as you're looking at the actual document itself?
Questions, anyone?
As I fix my typo on the last slide there.
I guess we have no questions. All right.
So
I guess can I ask a question? Does everyone understand all of that? Like what was just presented to you? I guess is a good question. All right, because when this gets voted on in a second, I want to make sure you guys fully understand what that vote is going to mean, and you're passing it along to the next. Every vote that we make, we have to really be thinking about that. I don't want to say power. It's not really power, but about the responsibility that is behind it. So. I'm sorry for interrupting your advice, Ron. You may continue.
I was just going to say the next step would just be if everyone is comfortable with the changes as proposed, to go ahead and make a motion. If you're not, then we're going to be in trouble because I think it would need to actually go back to SAB. So we'll hope everyone's in favor and that someone is open to making a motion.
Senator Willis?
I move to make approval of the changes.
All right. And I see a first hand that was up. Besides that, after Senator Willis was VP Saeed. Is that a second to the motion of approving the recommended bylaw changes?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, as this is a very big decision, we're gonna make sure that we get everything documented down here. So, before I ask you to the A nays and abstaining, is there any discussion? No discussion. All right. Well, all those in favor of approving the bylaw changes, please use the hand raising feature now. And just to make sure I'm fully communicating, keep your hands up, please, as well as make sure that we have voting members currently. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm counting. All right. You can put your hands down. And then all those opposed, Senator Zebel, you still your hand up, but all those opposed, you can use the hand raising feature now and please keep them up. And down, and any abstentions, you can use the hand raising feature now and keep them up. All right, and you can put them down. And I believe, what did I say, 6? I'm pretty gosh darn positive that means it passed. So we are good to go on that. And me and Advisor Rome, SAB, Ben, everyone, thanks you for your participation and helping make sure that this gets on to the next step in the process. I'd definitely be in a lot of trouble if I had anything to present at the beginning of May. So yeah, that wouldn't be good. All right, cool. So let's keep it moving. It's 5:17. I see the time. All right, so we're going down. We have no non-business and housekeeping items. So officer and committee reports, executive council report, President Green. We continued on, well, we did a little bit of feedback and review on how that new center training went. What worked, what didn't work, what can we take from it to refine it for making it better for the future. That kind of dipped into, we've been talking about transition documents for a few weeks now, but it is a big thing, and we continue that talk a little bit. There, I got through that report that I gave that you just heard about, as well as the budget for it's the student sent through your plan, I should say, to both the district board and the college assembly coming up, and that was really there wasn't really a lot of stuff that was talked about. Besides, it was a very short meeting. So that ends my report. Moving down, and I obviously should know this by now. Admin Finance Committee is currently vacant. Legislative and Rules Committee is currently vacant. Team Development Committee, VP Moreno, what do you got for us?
Okay, so the first thing that I got is, and I'm gonna send it to the chat, this Friday, 4:30 p.m., we're gonna host the movie night. So I'm just gonna send the link once again, so you just vote on the movie that you like. It was a beautiful tie between the decisions, so we're just waiting for those that haven't voted to be the deal breakers there. So we can choose a movie, 4:30 again, everyone's invited. It's going to be broadcasted through a virtual Zoom meeting, well, not Zoom, Teams meeting, and it's going to be a fun time, definitely, hopefully to relax now that we're coming up to the end of the semester. Now, I'm going to share my screen for this second part, and it's about transition documents. So the idea is that with the transition documents, we're able to take on all the information, all the different guides, documents, bills, even that we've had, and create a guide for the future senators to come. So I know that I sent out the template for the different little details about the overview of your position, any comments that you had. And if you have the template ready, feel free to send it out to me. And what I'm showing is kind of what I've been doing with the responses that I've had. It's a guide to student senate from senators to senators. I'm still fixing on it. It's still missing some things, but it is going to be kind of like a booklet of the different things that you can have from Senate. It will be an easy place to access the information, to know what you're supposed to do, to if you want to learn more about what it means to be a VP. It's gonna have everything detailed, trying to make it as accessible and easy to read as possible. But this is another example of how transition documents could work. So for instance, I have been compiling up the information from the Team Development Committee, and I have it in this small folder here. So once I open up, it kind of has the activities that we have done, the agendas from the meetings, any bills that other members of the Senate in future team development committees can inspire from, the Canva invitation for events and just how we did those. Let's see, for example, see small pictures and everything just for inspiration. We have also ideas for future events or activities. So all the Kahoots, the trivia nights, movie nights have been written down here as well. The newsletters that have been coming out through the Madison College Student Senate email. And this is just the template of the document that I sent out. So transition document template, as you can see here, what position do you have? VP of Team Development, an overview, what in my opinion are the requirements or expectations that I've had. I kind of make a little small description about what it is, a week in my life as team development. Then I talk about council and my participation in the racial equity committee. So this is just kind of what it looks like, and then eventually that turns on into this guide that has been slowly growing. But yes, so definitely transition documents important when you have the time. It is a great resource for other students that come into Senate. If anyone's having any trouble with the template or questions on, where I can find all the documents that I used, so usually they are in the chats that we have had in the meetings and everything. You can find all those documents there as well. But that is the big thing that I would say. Go and vote for the movie that you would like to watch. And yes, that's what I have for my report.
All right, awesome. Thank you, VP Moreno. And let's move down Public Relations Committee with VP Saeed.
I don't really have any report. It's just that the same thing. I'm working on transition documents, and some of my team members come up with the idea of posting a fun fact about Friday. So we'll be having a post every Friday about a fun fact. So just watch out for it and just like our social media. And I think that would end my report here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, VP Saeed. Moving down to special reports with the advisor Rome.
All right, so you should have seen my email yesterday about the stipend rubrics. Those need to be back to me by Tuesday of next week. Midnight is fine. President Green and I just need to look through them on Wednesday morning to make sure we're on track to meet that deadline. I did want to see if there were any questions now that people have had a chance to look at them. I know some of you have filled them out many times, but for some of you it's the first time. So let me know if you have questions. You do need to fill out some things in the top section, your name, your position, what term it is, how many points you're giving yourself, and then under each subsection, make sure that you highlight, I have done 75% of my office hours or 100% of my office hours. Just highlight that in Word and save it. So, and then I would love any comments. President Green and I always like to hear your self-reflection. So feel free to add comments as well. So after those are returned to me, President Green and I will look at them. We will determine the stipend amounts. Pretty much I can't think of a single person who wouldn't get the full stipend. Everyone's getting the full stipend, but we still want the self-reflection and we need to do the paperwork. You all have done a fantastic job this semester, so don't be hard on yourselves. Give yourself some flexibility and grace. But I do need the paperwork in order to process the stipends. I also need the leadership skills survey completed before I can process your stipend. So that went out once or twice, depending on if you finished it after the first email. So make sure that you do that by Tuesday as well. Actually, I need that before Tuesday because I'm mailing things out on Monday. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, put something in the chat and I'll fill you in. Don't forget about the Excellence in Advising or in Involvement Award ceremony next Wednesday, where we will be announcing the Student Senate Merit Awards and seeing if Senate won the Outstanding Organization of the Year. So that is 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday. And then there's one other thing I'm going to email you about related to faculty training and giving feedback on that, but just look for an email on that. That is my report.
All right, thank you, Advisor Rome. I'm just gonna keep moving down. But if you have questions, make sure you're using those hands. All right, so regional and metro campus reports. Reedsburg is vacant, Watertown vacant, Portage vacant, Fort Atkinson vacant, Goodman South currently vacant. College and council reports. College Assembly, Senator Chaudelli, what do you got for us?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So we had a college assembly meeting, and we read we did a second read of the inclusive language guidelines. Some of us have already seen that. We did a read of it in one of our GA meetings here a few weeks back. That passed because it was a second read. We voted on it, so that passed. 21 yay, 7 abstained. Based off my own estimation, I think everyone thought it's a good idea. It's about how do we be mindful of offensive language basically and draw that up in guidelines. I think the only kind of hesitation on the abstentions was just, how do we actually objectively measure these things? It's all pretty subjective, but everyone kind of recognized, the intention of it is just to be more aware of, being inclusive and all that. So yeah, that passed. We also had a finance council. That finance council did a first read of their budget input policy. The goal of that is to basically get the employees and students more engaged in the budgeting process. So they did a read of that. And then that was it. Yeah, we had a couple other items, but we didn't get to them. So they will be covered in the next college assembly meeting. That concludes my report.
Awesome. Thank you, Senator Tardelli. All right, moving down, Academic Council. Senator Yildiz, what do you got for us?
Today we had our meeting and we were discussing two things. The first thing that we were talking about was adding in new members to the Academic Council, so everyone put their input about that. And then immediately after, we went into the credit, no credit policy, and some things discussed. We had more data coming in. For example, there is no health programs that have credit, no credit, no information about financial aid yet. Pass fail is decided at the beginning of the course, while credit, no credit is decided after when it ends. You can also revert your credit, no credit back to a letter grade within a certain amount of time. So make sure to do that like right after when you decide, okay, I want to get my letter grade back. In MATC, in Madison College, when repeating the class, the GPA only factors the best grade in. So if you did better the first time around, then that will be put into your GPA. The timeline for the policy is to make it permanent would be around October. And then students are not allowed to take all credit, no credit classes, and do make sure to meet with a transfer advisor to see if credit, no credit is going to affect your transfer. So that concludes my report.
Awesome. Thank you, Senator Yildiz. All right, moving down, Diversity and Community Relations Council is currently vacant. Facilities Planning and Investment Council. Senator Willis, what do you have for us?
Okay, we have requested to come and present. Sorry, Facilities Planning and Investment Council is scheduled tentatively to present or do a loop out on April 29th. Right now, we have just one of our presenters who has been out on vacation, and we need to confirm that he'll be available, or if we're going to have somebody else from the facilities office take his place. We're working on finalizing a survey that we want to send out to the deans in order to assess what their space needs as of today compared to what they requested in the 10-year facilities plan. And we hope to get that survey out by over the summer, and then follow up in the fall and do loop outs again and update everybody, because we had a loop out from the IT department and they basically gave back 1,800 square feet, which is astounding because their employees are now working either 2 or more days from home or 3 or more days from home or 2 or less. And they are able to what they call hotel and share desks on campus, and everybody's okay with that, and they reconfigured their space, and that's significant considering, normally all departments want to hold on to whatever real estate they have, and that was phenomenal that they were able to reconfigure like that. So we're just trying to figure out if other areas are finding that they're going to do something similar with their space needs, and if we can actually reallocate that in other ways for the departments or other uses, because student life can always use more real estate to house organizations. So I'm just making a suggestion, but yeah, that's the bulk of my report. So hopefully we'll be presenting next week. If not, we'll check in with Advisor Rome and schedule. And I advise them to try to do it before the end of the school year to get input from the current senators as well as the ones that will be here for next year instead of doing it after the current senators, the ones that are leaving leave. So, any questions? Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Senator Willis. Now moving down, Senator Sabranik, Finance Council.
I've got no report.
Sounds good. Thanks, buddy. And Information Technology Council, Senator Zebel, what do you have for us?
I have no report.
Cool, cool. Institutional Effectiveness Council is currently vacant. Professional Development Council, Senator Willis, what do you have for us?
We're currently still trying to figure out how to add in language to be more diverse and inclusive. We're re-looking at the IAS sheets and then also trying to figure out how to best present opportunities to staff and employees, because faculty is taken care of, but as far as making them aware of professional development opportunities that may exist for them. And so what they're going to do is we're going to first check in with the administrators or the supervisors to make sure that we actually categorize stuff in a way that, so for the ones, for example, the employees who don't work at a desk can still get, we can make arrangements for them to be able to have access to professional development, even if they don't have a desk to sit at school, but make arrangements for them to still be able to take advantage of some of those opportunities as well, and to make sure everybody is aware of opportunities and to find out what people want to do and make it happen.
Cool. And does that conclude your report?
It does.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, not a problem. All right, and move it now. VP Moreno is not here for Student Affairs Council, but she said there was no report, I think is what she messaged me. Yeah, there's no report, she said, from Student Affairs. So then I don't think we have quorum anymore, but we're just gonna, for kicks and giggles, do it anyway. Good practice is always good practice. Announcements, do those virtual office hours, do your service hours, make sure we're getting them logged. And we don't want to get in trouble, and we want to make sure we're getting our stipend, and all that jazz. So, and other than that though, yes, everything that was said tonight, all the activities going on, all the things that are circulating around, let's make sure we're going to them if we can, and enjoy. We got a couple of weeks left, semester. As students, I would say, is what I mean to really say. So just take care of yourself and have a good time. And I looked up and I just saw two, so I'm just gonna go with the first one on top of the list, which is Senator Zebel on this one. Is this a motion to adjourn the meeting, Senator Zebel?
What about my digital access report? Why not do that anymore?
Well, it's not. It's on the other side of we flip back and forth between two different agendas to try to make sure that we can successfully have quorum and get all the things done that need to get done. So that will be next week's report.
I see.
If there was something relevant though that you think that needs to be shared to the rest of the Senate, I would advise to send that to me, advise Rome, or send it out to the entire the Senate email channel, whatever you want to call it, or use the Teams channel. That stuff's there for a reason. But
okay, yeah, I can wait on my report. It's just gonna suspense on you guys.
Yeah, it's gonna be suspenseful. Suspense.
Oh, I do have a link to share you guys for emergency broadband funding. That I'll send that in the chat.
That sounds good. Senator Willis, is this motion?
I'd like to move to adjourn, please. Thank you so much.
It's so is that second?
Yep.
All right. So again, we don't have quorum, but let's just do it anyway. All those in favor, use the hand raising feature now. And bingo. Well, we got almost everyone. So yep, there we go. And the meeting is adjourned at 5:36 p.m. I will see you all later. Again, happy Earth Day. Enjoy the weather. It's good and nice out today. And have a great weekend. All right. So,
Thank you. Happy
You
Earth
too.
bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.